So, let's begin the story. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Friends, just imagine. You go on vacation to a peaceful island surrounded by the ocean, calm and quiet. But suddenly, your relaxing trip turns into a terrifying nightmare. You realize that everything happening around you was already planned, and you've unknowingly become part of a dangerous scheme set up by a crazy killer. This story begins in Australia, where a boy named Greg and a girl named Haida had come as tourists. They were both staying in the same hotel, which is how they met. Later, they decided to join a sea adventure called Taka's Experience, which promised an exciting encounter with sharks. When they arrived at the dock, they noticed that the whole tourist area was completely empty except for an old man sitting on a nearby boat. His name was Dave. Suddenly, a man named Taka appeared. He introduced himself as the captain of the shark tour and said he was the one running it. The three of them got on the boat and headed out into the ocean. During the ride, Taka started chatting with them and telling old stories. He even showed them a newspaper article about how he had survived a shark attack when he was a child. Then he lifted his shirt and showed them the deep scar on his waist. Seeing this, both Greg and Haida felt sorry for him. Now, it was time for the dive. Greg and Haida were locked inside a metal cage and slowly lowered into the water, surrounded by sharks. Haida got very scared, but Greg held her hand, helping her calm down. Gradually, she started to enjoy the thrilling moment. After some time, Taka told them their time was up, so they came out of the cage. Greg thanked Taka, saying diving with sharks always been his childhood dream. But the very next moment, that dream turned into a horrifying reality. Without any warning, Taka suddenly attacked Dave with a knife and pushed him into the sea. Seeing this, Haida screamed in fear. The scene then shifts to a shop near the Gold Coast, where a girl named Zephyr was out shopping. There, she met a boy named Maurice, who was looking for a cable for his car, but couldn't find it. After paying her bill, Zephyr went to the parking lot, took out the ice cream she had hidden in her cup, and quietly started eating. Just then, she ran into Maurice again. He asked to borrow her car cable, but Zephyr ignored him completely. Annoyed, Maurice hinted that if she didn't help him, he would tell everyone in the shop that she had stolen something. Hearing this, Zephyr got angry and pushed him away. Realizing things were getting tense, Maurice quickly changed his tone and explained that he had walked several blocks under the hot sun and just needed a lift back to his car. Zephyr thought for a moment and finally agreed to give him a ride. On the way, she noticed his formal clothes and asked why he was dressed like that. Maurice said he was a real estate agent. Even though their first meeting had been awkward and their lifestyles were completely different, a bit of flirting brought them closer. Zephyr slowly began to trust him and gave him a chance. That night, she stayed over at Maurice's place and they had a good time together. Maurice started to genuinely fall for her, even making breakfast for her the next morning. But Zephyr wasn't the kind of girl who got attached easily. By the time Maurice brought her pancakes, she had already left. Later, when Zephyr parked her car near the beach, she realized she had left her license at Maurice's house. She saw a nearby truck and went looking for its owner, but suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. When she turned around, Taka was standing there, smiling at her. Without asking anything, he handed her some adhesive as a kind gesture and complimented her for traveling alone so bravely. Zephyr thanked him and went back to fixing her surfboard. Just then, Maurice sent her a photo of the breakfast he'd made, asking if she wanted to go surfing with him. Zephyr started typing a reply, but before she could finish, Taka came up from behind and put a plastic bag over her head, knocking her unconscious. He taped her mouth shut, hid her body inside a storage box, and took her onto his boat. The next day, when Zephyr regained consciousness, her mouth was still taped and she was handcuffed. In the corner of the small room, she saw another woman, also restrained. Zephyr, terrified, pulled off the tape and asked what was happening. Haida told her they were both locked inside a small room on Taka's boat. She said she had been trapped there for quite some time. Hearing that, Zephyr panicked even more and began screaming for help. But Haida, crying, told her, "There's no point in shouting, no one can hear us here." No one could hear them. Realizing the situation, Zephyr calmed herself and began thinking about what to do next. Together, she and Haida started searching the room for anything sharp that could help them break free from their handcuffs. Meanwhile, above deck, Taka was sitting calmly, fishing as if nothing was wrong. Zephyr asked Haida if someone would come looking for her. Haida shook her head hopelessly. Then she asked Zephyr the same question. Zephyr gave a faint smile, hiding her sadness, and said, "There's no one who'll miss me either." But what Zephyr didn't know was that Maurice was still thinking about her. On his way somewhere, Maurice noticed that Zephyr's Airbnb was still locked up exactly as it was the previous night. That made him suspicious. Feeling uneasy, he went straight to the police station. But the officer there didn't take him seriously. He said, "She's probably just a tourist, maybe off sightseeing somewhere." Meanwhile, Zephyr was still struggling struggling to free herself from the cuffs. Suddenly, she noticed the wire from Hyda's bikini top. Hyda immediately took off her top, pulled out the wire, and tossed it towards Zephyr. Zephyr quickly started using it to unlock her handcuffs. Just then, they heard footsteps approaching. Both women hurriedly hid the wire and everything else. Taka entered the room carrying food and water. Hyda hesitated for a moment, but was extremely thirsty. She knew if Taka found out she had removed her top, their escape plan could be ruined, but her thirst was unbearable, so she decided to take the risk. Zephyr distracted Taka by pretending to cough loudly and demanding food. Taka took the bait and started giving one of his long, creepy speeches about being a hunter. After he left, Zephyr handed Hyda her top back and quickly resumed unlocking the handcuffs. But suddenly, Zephyr started feeling dizzy, then collapsed. Hyda was already unconscious. Zephyr realized that something had been mixed in the water. In panic, she dropped the wire. Taka returned, picked up the wire, and waited for Zephyr to pass out completely. When Zephyr woke up, she found herself tied to a chair on the boat's deck. In front of her, Hyda was hanging from a crane-like machine. Taka turned on his video camera and began recording, giving another twisted monologue. Praising the shark, he said it was the most powerful predator in the world. Then he walked up to Hyda, cut off a strand of her hair, and as she regained consciousness, he began lowering her slowly into the water. Hyda screamed desperately, struggling to break free, but moments later, a shark appeared and attacked her leg. Hyda screamed in agony, thrashing wildly until the shark dragged her underwater. Taka calmly filmed the entire scene, also recording the terror on Zephyr's face. Later, Zephyr was locked back in the storage room. On the wall, beneath chipped paint, she noticed names carved into the surface, realizing she wasn't Taka's first victim. Meanwhile, Taka celebrated his cruelty, dancing, placing Hyda's lock of hair and the recorded footage into a cabinet filled with many similar tapes. Then he wrote Zephyr's name on a new tape. That night, Taka returned with food. Enraged, Zephyr kicked the food tray away. Taka said nothing and quietly left. As soon as he stepped out, Zephyr opened a metal bucket nearby and pulled out a sharp edge from it. Taka, meanwhile, prepared another syringe filled with sedative and went back inside. As he leaned in to inject her, Zephyr stabbed him in the neck with the sharp metal. Taka fell to the ground. Zephyr quickly grabbed his keys and began unlocking her cuffs. But just as she was checking his pockets, Taka regained consciousness. Zephyr ran out, trying to lock him inside the storage room, but Taka used his strength to force the door open. She ran toward the stairs, but Taka caught her from behind and injected the sedative into her leg. Furious, Zephyr kicked him hard in the face, knocking him down, and ran to the upper deck. She tried calling for help through the radio, but the sedative was already taking effect. Through the window, she saw a party boat nearby and stumbled outside, waving her arms, trying to scream, but no sound came out. Taka appeared, laughing, holding his camera tripod like a weapon. Zephyr knew she had no strength left, so she grabbed the camera and threw it into the sea, then jumped overboard herself. As soon as she hit the water, she lost consciousness. Her hand got caught in a hook, pulling her upward. The next day, Maurice was extremely worried as he tried to figure out Zephyr's whereabouts. He found a broken boat washed ashore and decided to use an app to check nearby CCTV cameras for any clue. That's when he saw a truck following Zephyr's van. Zooming in, he identified Taka's experience number. Meanwhile, Taka had gone to fetch another video camera. Maurice quietly boarded the boat, looking around. Suddenly, he heard a hand banging from inside a wall. Acting immediately, he broke a small window and entered the storage room where he found Zephyr handcuffed. She urgently told him to call the police. As Maurice climbed the stairs while calling, Taka appeared and pushed him forcefully, sending him crashing down. The call to the police had already been made, but Maurice could barely speak. Taka struck him repeatedly, preventing him from saying anything. In a fit of rage, Taka smashed Maurice's phone and was about to attack him further when Maurice struck back using a shopping bag, knocking Taka to the ground. Just then, Dave appeared and hit Maurice on the head with a pedal. At the same time, Dave heard a girl screaming from below deck and realized the situation was far worse than he imagined. But before he could act, Taka struck Dave on the head with a hook and then captured Maurice along with Zephyr. Maurice apologized for failing to save her, but Zephyr dismissed him, insisting she could handle it alone. Suddenly, the boat slowed down and Taka entered the storage room, rendering both of them unconscious again. When Zephyr woke up, she found herself back on the deck with Maurice trapped in a plane-like contraption. She begged Taka to release him, but he showed no mercy and began dunking Maurice halfway into the water, just like he had done with Hyda. He dunked Maurice halfway into the water, just like he had done with Hyda. Below, the shark circled in wide loops. Then Zephyr got an idea and shouted at Maurice to stand completely still. Despite his fear, Maurice obeyed and remained perfectly motionless. To their relief, the shark didn't attack him at all. Seeing this, Taka got furious again. He dragged Maurice back onto the bonds, stabbed him in the stomach, and hung him back in the water. As blood dripped into the water, the sharp brush brought it back instantly. At that moment, a Coast Guard helicopter appeared flying overhead. Taka quickly closed the rope and locked the storage storage room. Meanwhile, Zephyr in the storage room was extremely worried about Maurice. She knew she had to find a way to get her hand out of the handcuffs and escape. After some time, Taka returned to the room. By then, Zephyr had broken the bone in her thumb, but endured the pain and waited for Taka to leave. When her hand still didn't come free, she bit off her own thumb entirely. When Taka came back, he only found Zephyr's severed thumb on the bed. He had no idea Zephyr was hiding behind the door. Taking advantage of the moment, Zephyr escaped and locked Taka in the storage room. She ran to the cabin and saw that the boat was stopped near an island, but Taka had somehow freed himself and was pursuing her. Zephyr grabbed a flare gun to protect herself and fired it at Taka, but he survived. He blocked her exit from the kitchen ceiling and pulled her down by the legs. Zephyr struck back using a flying bag, stabbed him in the hands with a knife, giving her the chance to escape. She jumped into the sea and swam toward Alif. Taka immediately took his small boat to chase her. When Zephyr reached the shore, it was empty, but Taka arrived as well and grabbed her, holding her unconscious on his small boat, then placed her on the larger boat. Maurice woke up to see Zephyr hanging from a crane-like contraption while a huge white shark circled below in the water. Seeing the shark, Maurice screamed in terror and Taka went crazy with excitement. He chased away the smaller sharks to ensure only the big shark attacked Zephyr. During the chaos, Taka's harpoon fell and Zephyr grabbed it. She tried to free herself, but Taka was unfazed, recording every struggle on his camera, convinced his victory would be more thrilling. Maurice shouted again to warn Zephyr that the white shark had come close and everything froze. Taka startled Zephyr, causing her to fall into the water, but this time she was fully freed from the ropes. Calmly underwater, she pressed her injured thumb with her other hand to prevent blood from spreading. The shark came extremely close, but turned away without attacking. Taka watched helplessly. Zephyr climbed onto the pot behind her, took another harpoon, and signaled Maurice to stay quiet. As Taka turned, Zephyr thrust the harpoon into his stomach, sending him into the water. She tried swimming back to the boat, keeping her eyes on him. Suddenly, something grabbed her from below. Taka looked around, but the white shark leapt out of the water and attacked him, devouring him. Taka surfaced again, captured on his own camera. Zephyr finally exhaled in relief. However, the harpoon got tangled in her legs, pulling her underwater again. Maurice, terrified, screamed loudly and passed out. After some time, Zephyr resurfaced. She saw the partygoers passing nearby. Climbing to the upper deck, she fired the flare gun, which caused the other boat to turn away. She went down to the deck, woke Maurice, and tearfully said, "I don't want to live alone anymore." Maurice regained consciousness, and with this scene, the story of dangerous animal Zephyr concludes. Let us know in the comments how you liked the video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you.